Welcome to Console Shock, episode 67, Retro Mon Gaming Chat with Trev and Stu. How's it going, Stu?
Oh, good man, good. I'm enjoying the hot weather of the summer, and yeah, it's nice.
It's a weird situation, isn't it? With obviously the lockdown is easing a bit, but we're getting a nice weather with it. But with all this stuff in the background, it's kind of difficult to enjoy it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit actually. I actually went up your way on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'll miss his Trevor, and I know he will not look
even
at
see
his
it
phone until Monday.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely. I don't know why you don't use your phone at weekends. It's quite odd. But
it's going lockdown. Make my own little lockdown for the weekend. That's what it is.
Exactly. So I came up to Woolwich, walked along the Thames Path. It was really just nice, relaxing, and yeah, really enjoyed it actually. And it was quite nice about there. Real lack of parking.
Yeah.
A real lack of parking.
That's annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, everything was. We went round about 3 times, and then we found sort of a car park near Premier Inn or something, and we parked in there. And
nice.
That was all good, and had a nice walk along there. But yep. So it's not really video game related.
Very quaint. Yeah, no one gives a crap about this. I don't give a crap about
exactly.
Going on walks, doing exercise.
I want to know about refresh rates.
We want to talk about the video games. We want to talk about, all the video game stuff, like, what JRPGs are the best, what our experience was buying a PC Engine game when we were 12. I didn't do any of that stuff, to be fair, did we? We had very, very boring. I wish I had an upbringing as exciting as some of the YouTubers that we listen to, the bigger ones. Like we talked about, Happy Console Gamer, who seemed to have got like every big game that ever came out when it came out. I don't know. He's a bit older than us, so he probably would have had that money to do it. But that would have been dreamland for me. I had like basically my NES, and then later on my Mega Drive. I had a smattering of games for that. I'll get a new one every few months if I'm lucky, and that was it. Really, it's not that exciting to talk about.
Well, I had I don't mean to gloat, but I had pretty much all of the good games for the Amiga at the time. But of course, a lot of those were pirated.
Yeah, I probably could say that as well with my Amiga. Yeah, so there was always someone that you knew that could copy you a game, and bang, you got the latest game.
Exactly. But yeah, you hear these people in America. Oh, I had all these games, and I still remember going into sort of Boots to buy video games, and Super Mario Brothers 3 was maybe I almost want to say £60, £50.
Yeah, I think it was. Might be more
Street
than that.
Fighter 2 was $64.99.
Yeah,
and you're thinking that if you put that into an inflation calculator now, the games were probably over £100 for really good games, but literally every game was that kind of price.
and if you had, you would only get these if you had rich parents or you had a ton of. I mean,
Rich parents, or it would be your birthday.
Yes.
And you go, I really want Super Mario World, or I really want Donkey Kong Country, and you go, okay, yeah, you've told your parents in advance, and I'm sure it's sort of it's difficult to buy these games, but
yeah, I mean, as being a kid for most of the 90s, and there was no chance I could keep up. My experience of most of the games that what are now considered to be the classics, I had a handful probably of actual what I owned, a handful of them, the ones that I was able to get on a birthday or pocket my money saving up or whatever. Most of my experience of these, there was no internet, so you couldn't just watch people play these games or anything. Maybe you got a promo video. But my experience would have been from the magazines, really reading about them and having people talk about them at school that had them. Sometimes it was maybe one thing that we haven't touched upon too much, but because I lived by the seaside, I had a lot of arcades.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is interesting when you compare like the US to the UK. I think there was a lot greater volume of arcade places in America.
I think in America you had arcades literally if you lived in a medium-sized town in Ohio.
Yeah.
There would be Dream World
Yeah.
arcade on the high street or whatever it was called.
Yeah, it wasn't a unique thing. Whereas here, it was either maybe the odd one in a pub or a fish and chip shop, or you had to live by the seaside to really have a big, huge bundle of arcades. And I was fortunate that I did. Didn't mean that I went and played on them all the time, but a fair amount. I was able to do that. So there was when we got to like the Saturn era, for example, or well, even like the Mega Drive era, like Virtua Racing. I'd be able to play that, the arcade version, if I had the spare change to be able to do it. Virtua Fighter, Daytona. I remember seeing those in the arcades, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is absolutely stunning!" Because the arcades where I grew up, often they would get the deluxe cabinets for these. So something like Daytona, which I think it would be in I think it would, that was released in like a boring kind of just normal Sega cabinet with a steering wheel attached, a stand-up kind of thing, the traditional unit sort of cabinet. But I remember like the pier where I live, where it had like a fun zone place where it had the arcade. They had like the
you grew up in Southend, didn't you?
Close. I grew up other side of Essex. I grew up near. I always say, or I can never say the actual place because no one ever knows where it is. So I just say Clacton on Sea, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, I know Clacton on Sea." It was pretty close to Clacton on Sea actually. I did spend a lot of time in arcades in Clacton on Sea, but yeah, there. But yeah, they would have the deluxe versions of these things. So the big, God, the screens are probably tiny compared to just our normal TVs now, right? But I think it was probably a good 40-inch like rear projection screen, and you'd sit down in a cab with a big steering wheel. With probably I think it had it was at least a 2-player version. So I got to play those. I got to play those games, sporadically. But yeah, I didn't have the money to. I mean, Street Fighter 2. I think I didn't get that till probably 1993, the end of 93 or 94. When it was started becoming a discount game on the Mega Drive. I remember I picked it up for 30 quid, I think, on the Mega Drive. Well, I didn't. I think my dad got it for me. But yeah, before then, I only remember renting it out. And I think when I got to be a teenager, so I had little bit more money that my parents were able to give me from my pocket money. Most of the new games when we hit the PlayStation era were ones that I was renting out. Because there wasn't a big video game rental thing. Thinking about it's probably different for where you grew up.
Well, there was in Dover. I remember there was a couple of video game sort of rental places. So you go in there and rent N64 games, and but then to go sort of back a little bit, it was always again the price of games. It was going into Boots and seeing Super Mario Brothers 3, and you could appreciate that was wow, that's a good game. It's £50, but then on 2 shelves down, you'd see Spectrum games for $2.99.
Amiga games for
and then quite often talking about the arcade, they go, "Oh wow, look, Outrun! I saw that at Folkestone in the arcade," and you're like, "Oh wow, I've always wanted to play Outrun." And so you buy the Spectrum game, and okay, it was all blue or something, and it didn't quite play as well, but you could sort of squint at it.
It was like even when like Mortal Kombat 2 came out, it was like 60 quid on the Mega Drive, or it was like the Amiga version was like 30. I was like, going to get the Amiga version then. And obviously, people see that on the Amiga version on like YouTube, and they're like, "Oh, lol, look at how long the loading times are. Oh my god, that's ridiculous."
Yeah.
It was like, "Oh, the kid, it was freaking awesome." I didn't care about that. If you went from like ZX Spectrum or Commodore 64, where you'd be sat there for a good 2 or 3 minutes waiting for just the first bit of the game to load, to just swap a couple of discs out and just wait 30 seconds. That was fine to me. It was perfectly playable. Obviously, if you had if money was no object, you probably would go for the Super Nintendo or Mega Drive version.
Yeah, I mean, you always got the impression that they were the sort of better versions, and in hindsight, they probably are. And they were a lot of times done by the original American or Japanese sort of developers, so that they tend to be rather than
good old Probe to do it, wasn't it? That was what those American big buck game developers would be like, you know, oh yeah, we've made Mortal Kombat 2. Who are those bloody UK guys that make those silly other versions that we don't care about? Or Probe, Probe will do it. Probe, can you make Mortal Kombat 2 for the Amiga? We can't be asked. Yeah, sure, mate. Yeah, we'll do it. Cool. Don't worry about the QA part. Just get it out. Get it out as quick as you can.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's funny because like I remember watching recently like a video of the Game Chasers, and a lot of the time I've noticed they'll talk about a big like NES game or something, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I never owned it. I was only able to rent it, and that was like over and over again. I would hear that like, oh yeah, we rented it, we never bought it. But yeah, I don't really remember renting games being a thing until like late Mega Drive for me. Like there was rental shops where I lived, you know, video like VHS tapes, films, but they wouldn't often stock video games. When the PlayStation hit, then it became a lot more common, and my local video shop started doing PlayStation games, and they had tons of them as well, and they would get all the latest releases. So that's when it became more prevalent. But before that, there was one video shop that was a bit of a trek away from where I lived. So I lived in a small town, lived in a big town, and they let you rent Mega Drive games, and it was about £3 for a night. But for me, that was like nowhere near enough. Like for a game, like a film, you watch it in 2 hours, and you've done it, right? But I remember renting Street Fighter 2 for the Mega Drive before I eventually bought it later, like I said earlier. I remember renting it, and it was just like I was just gagging for more of it when I gave it back. It was so heart-wrenching giving it back because it's just an awesome game. But yeah, it's interesting how, you know, it was a lot more common in America than it was, well, at least in my part of the world. Although you had the massive metropolis of Folkestone, where
Dover
the
really,
Harbour of Kent, the Aki Harbour of Kent,
the Aki Harbour. Yeah, I used to go to Super Potato in Dover.
But that was the vegetable shop. What about the video?
There was never a video game in there. There was Super Potato.
Remember those days in Dover? You'd go and you'd watch Dover Athletic in the conference. They'd be having their game with Northwich Victoria.
In the Beezer Homes.
Yeah, the GM Vauxhall Conference. You know, you'd be there, then you'd be like, "Where are we going now, lads?" And then you'd go to the arcade and play.
They're all gone now, all the arcades in Dover and Folkestone.
Yeah, I mean, do they have any games at any of them now, or
no. There's definitely none in Dover. They've all gone.
It's a touristy kind of like holiday place, though, is it? I guess. Unlike Clacton City.
It was. I think a lot of people went to Folkestone, which is close by, and then Margate. So I think they're always called JG Amusement. So it was owned by Mr. JG. I think I know his name. I'm not quite sure, but so there was a big like arcade theme park or fun fair that was like permanently in Folkestone, and one permanently in Margate. You know, Dreamland, Benbon Brothers. Have you ever heard of that?
Hell no.
It's famous from the Only Fools and Horses episode where they go down to Margate. You see them at Benbon Brothers, or Dreamland as it was called. Oh. And so he owned that. So it was sort of maybe, I don't know, halfway between those places. So it had a little arcade, and I think it was more aimed at, taking old women's,
careful what you're saying
in the fruit machines, rather than actually providing all the latest computer games for unruly youths to play.
This about old seaside town stories is really going to resonate, isn't it, with our core audience? It was fun being, like I said, we're probably both in that sense. We're fortunate that we lived in areas where, you know, they had to sort of have arcade machines because of the nature of the areas. What about Whitstable? That's got to be that'd be a good one, wouldn't it, to stick all that stuff?
I've never been to Whitstable once in my life, but I think it was all about, I'll come to Whitstable and drink real ale and
it's a bit like that, isn't it?
Oysters. It wasn't,
salt of the earth man like you. What would be into that?
You know, exactly.
Like two packets of lager and a pint of crisps.
Exactly. You want candy floss, which is just pure sugar. You want to eat donuts, which is just pure sugar.
Smoke cigarettes around the bike sheds.
Exactly, and then drink lager, and that's really what you want.
I suppose, and that's like the blue collar kind of area, is it not?
Exactly.
Yeah. So arcade machines, and to be honest, a lot of the big games, that were around in the 80s and the 90s. I don't think I really like a large proportion of them. I probably didn't experience till I was a grown up or an adult, and maybe a lot of it. Well, I was watching these games on YouTube because obviously, I wouldn't necessarily have seen them unless I knew someone that owned them or they were in a magazine.
Yeah.
And with emulators, obviously started coming out in the late 90s. There was a ton of like Mega Drive games that I never got a chance to play because there was no demos of those games on discs. This was a Mega CD game, of course. So it was only really probably till the rise of the emulator that I got to experience a lot of the classic games because they just weren't something that I was able to buy for myself because I wasn't of the age where I could do that casually. So yes. But we're talking about pirating. We touched upon that a little bit.
Yeah.
You friggin' love pirating games.
Well, I don't actually. I don't. And normally the theme of an episode, if we ever talk about sort of piracy, hacking, modding, is usually I've modded my X or Y. I've modded my Wii U to play Mega Drive games. Boring.
Yeah.
Why do you want to play Mega Drive on your Wii U or something?
Wii U that sat next to the Mega Drive. You've got
exactly. It's not really that much point. But anyway, I got a little bit sick and tired of. I love the Vita, and I've probably bought 10 to 15 games. So I've done my duty with it, and really good games.
You've called your duty.
I've called my duty with it. And then I was thinking, actually, I want to get a few more games for it. And so I started looking at sort of, okay, what were the good ones? Right, okay, I want to get God of War collection. Right,
was it the 1000, the fat?
That's the one I've got. So, and if you want to buy that on a cartridge in the box, you're probably looking 25, 30 quid, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, around that price. I was thinking, well, actually, I don't really want to kind of pay that kind of money for it. So then I thought, well, what about if I went onto the online store? Went on there, $34.99.
That's a weird one, isn't it? Because you would think that would have hit that, what's like the PS2 games of that are now, like, or the PS3 collection that came out. That's like 15 quid, 20 quid.
But what my point is that you're buying games that are, okay, they're quite old now. And you're still paying like $34.99 for a game that Well, actually, what I think it should potentially be $9.99. It should be, I'll put it in a sale for $4.99.
Or in the platinum range or whatever by now.
Then absolutely, loads of people will say, "Oh, actually, find out loads because there's loads of hidden gems on the Vita." But then, if you want to buy them, if you want to play them, you've kind of got to pay sort of big bucks. So anyway, I went down the route of modifying my Vita. It probably took me about an hour. I watched sort of two or three videos. So I did one thing first, and then that sort of opened it up, and then I did something else to download this software that let me put games onto it.
Was it all on the Vita itself, or was there a lot of like copying files over from a PC or anything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, lots of copying files over from a PC, and then just doing something on the Vita, then back to the PC, then copying this over, then doing something. Then it was all sort of step by step, and it was the first time I've ever really modded a machine. Not since maybe years and years ago. I got a chip in my PlayStation 1, but
that was a classic. That
so I went on there and I just I want to try this game. I want to try that game, and I just got loads of games that I was actually sort of looking for, and just put them onto the Vita, and I've had loads of sort of fun with them, and so I'd recommend sort of doing it because there's a lot of the ways, unless you want to spend I don't know, $34.99 on FIFA 15.
Yeah.
It's really sort of the only option, really.
Is it so? Obviously, you're saying you got a lot more games on there. Have you had to buy a new memory card then, or is it all they all fitting
No,
on?
I unfortunately I already had a 32 gigabyte card, so I think I deleted a few of the games I had on there already, and then I put maybe sort of 5 or 6 games, and then I've given them a go. And if I like them, I'll keep them. If I don't, I'll delete them and download something else. But then you can buy sort of cartridges which actually go into where you put the game cartridges, and then they hold an SD card on there, so you can get like a 128 gig SD card, and basically the largest size a Vita game can be, it looks as if it's about 3.3 gigs.
Yeah.
So potentially you can get maybe another 30 or 40 games onto a 128 gigabyte card. So I mean that's potentially all the ones I'd want to get. I'm not there to get all of the the crazy sort of Japanese love simulators. I've had enough of them.
That's the majority of Vita's library, unfortunately.
Completed them all.
Yeah.
It's just games that actually I want to go back and then play the Vita, and fingers crossed I will go on holiday at some point, and then it's a good sort of machine to, I mentioned FIFA 15, I put that on there and a few other things. It's just good to have on the journeys into work. Just sort of pick up and play, and you sort of forget how actually good the Vita is.
It's in a weird kind of zombie sort of state at the moment, isn't it? Because I still think game like physical releases are coming out for it, but I think they're only really like limited run kind of, those guys that sort of make those very small run physical games that just absolutely get like the whole like lot gets sold out within minutes of them going live. Have you ever attempted to get a game from them?
No, I think there was a lot of fuss about them at first, and now they seem to be. You go to the website, some games are pretty available, and then some turned up in Walmart in the US when they couldn't get rid of them. And what my issue is they'll find a good game that might have been sort of $7.99 on the Vita store, and then they'll put it into a box, make it into a cartridge, and then charge you $29.99 for it. And so
you didn't even get it.
And I'm thinking, well, do I really want to play that game sort of that much? And a lot of the games I want to get on the Vita are things like the God of War collection. I actually tried the Call of Duty game. That wasn't too hot. So it's a lot
declassified. Yeah, that's absolutely
the
worst games.
It's not great.
They marketed the absolute hell out of that, thinking, "Oh, people are going to go nuts buying Vitas for this," but the game was so bad. I think it just utterly failed.
It's got a weird thing where if you die, you have to go sort of back to the start of the mission or something, and it's
like 2 hours long as well, isn't it, or something? It's not even a kind of a full game.
It's really odd, and then it's kind of got. I think when you're playing Call of Duty, let's say on the Xbox One or something, it's got a tiny little bit of auto aim. But this is, as long as you're sort of in the direction of maybe someone, you just hit zoom and you're right on the person. It's like, oh, actually, it's taken the skill out of it a little bit.
I think it was like given to some third party to make it, and they gave them like 4 months to do it in or something.
Yeah, it was made by the same people that did Resistance. No,
the Vita Resistance game.
Exactly.
Well, wasn't
it?
Yeah. I mean, I see all these games on limited run games. I mean, there are some that I would be interested in having a physical copy, like Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. I really like that game. I've got it on Switch as a download. Night Trap would be cool to have, maybe that on Vita, the box for that, or there's a Switch version. I probably would get that actually. But then, I'm like, well, obviously, if you can get them, you can get them. But, I'm getting really used to the idea of having just everything as a digital game, unless it's cheap. And if I bought it digitally already and I see the physical copy cheap later on down the road, then I'll buy the physical copy as well. I do like physical copies.
I do, yeah.
I think everybody in our sort of our generation will always say that. But I also like the convenience just having all my games on the SD card, just be able to load them up straight away. Not to dig out the cartridge. That sounds lazy as hell, but it is kind of, especially if you're going, like you say, on a holiday or something, it might not be convenient to lug 40 or 50, Switch games around in a case if you can just have them all installed on the actual unit itself. So there's that as well. But yeah, I mean, they're just Vita especially, there isn't many super cheap games. They tend to all be, the cheapest games probably are the FIFA games and like the sports games.
Exactly, and it's. I mean, I don't quite know how to describe it, but I feel like there's some games that. I mean, I've got Ease 8, and I looked on eBay just by chance. This goes for like £70 or £80, and it's like I bought that game like brand new for $29.99 or whatever I paid for it, and I was really hyped about it. I'm about to say I completed it, but I think I'm about halfway through. I'll go back to it at some point. But the point is that okay, I don't mind paying a new game for that, but then a game that's 5 or 6 years old, it's kind of like a really sort of rare thing now, and I don't know, it just sort of grinds my gears when they used to do so many like really good sales on the Vita, where they have games $4.99 and for some really good games and things like that, and I'm like, oh, actually, do I really want to pay that kind of sort of the full whack when potentially it used to be like $7.99 or.
Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm looking on CEX and like Ratchet and Clank trilogy is like £48 on the Vita, which is like a staple kind of game. And God of War, like you're saying, is 42. They've gone up from the last time that I checked. So yeah, it's
exactly. So you're in the crate. Okay, I just want to play a sort of a not a mediocre game. They're good games, and but then they're only that price because there's just so few of them out there. So
yeah, they never got to the point where the Vita was popular enough that it kind of got like a platinum range, or it got like a budget range, because it just didn't sell. I mean, it's like it's basically the Dreamcast of handheld consoles. Really, it had a longer life than the Dreamcast.
It's a great way of describing it. But tell me, what FIFA game have you just bought?
Well, we're talking about how that's normally the cheapest game, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a console, because it's just so mass produced and so many people buy it. But so there's FIFA 20 on the Switch. So obviously like FIFA, we both do, football fans and everything, and football video game fans as well, and that's pretty much it's a good game. But on the Switch, they're already kind of fobbing people off because they've already gone to that legacy edition kind of point with their development of that version of the game, which we've seen elsewhere. So it's always been a thing, really. Going back to even like probably the PS2, really, where they kind of stopped developing, like adding enhancements to the engine at a certain point. Normally, when the next generation or the successor console has come out, but they still want to sell a copy on the older console because people still buy it. So they just replace the kits, and change around the squads, maybe change the menus, just, the assets in the menus to the whatever the current year is. And they sell it normally at full whack, and that's a bit of a rip-off. Eventually they started calling it, this is the Legacy Edition, and they would actually call it out on the box saying, look, there is nothing new in this. It is just new kits and squads and the overlay.
I mean, give them credit for doing that.
Yeah, so they're completely honest about it. obviously there's a big argument that, well, they shouldn't really try and price it for 40, 50 quid or whatever it is, when all you're getting is, some new assets essentially, and a squad update for all the team, which is, is a lot of work in itself. But it's not, it really should be DLC, shouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. If you've got, because you mentioned it to me, you said, "Oh, yeah, Stuart, the FIFA 20 is now £13 on the Nintendo store," and I think I've spotted it a week earlier actually, and I think I was straight away. I said, "No, I've got FIFA 18. It's the same."
Yeah,
and I'm not fussed if the players aren't quite right or things like that. Again, it'll be when I want to play a bit of FIFA, and it's just perfect, and I love it, and it's almost a little bit sort of frustrating that they won't actually make a proper sort of edition. But the whole issue is that someone sat down and looked at it and gone, okay, well, the FIFA one only really doesn't really sell too many copies on the Switch. What's the point of investing, I don't know, £5 million in developing a whole new graphics engine, or changing this, changing that, when
I mean,
essentially we won't get that money. We won't get that money back. So I understand sort of the reasons for doing it, but then it's frustrating when if your Switch is your primary machine, and you're going, oh god, I've bought the latest FIFA, and it's just got a couple of different teams in the Premier League, and a few players have moved around, and
I think a lot of people contrast it with the NBA games on the Switch, where they do have, like, I don't know if it is the same engine as the PS4 and Xbox One with just the graphics scale down a bit, but it is like they do make updates to it in terms of the gameplay and the features to keep them in line with the other consoles, which I think is great. I haven't bought NBA on the Switch, but I think it'd be great if they were able to do that with FIFA. But I mean, basically what we've had on Switch with FIFA is it's basically the Xbox 360 and PS3 version of the game. It is better if you compare them side by side, because things like that there's like the 3D crowd. There's actually a 3D crowd. It runs at 1080p, whereas the 360 and the PS3 720. The textures are a bit better. You can obviously notice that when you zoom in on like replay mode on the kits. They're not as blurry because obviously the Switch has got more sort of RAM and everything to be able to handle that. But gameplay, it's mostly the same as those. Which is fine for me, actually, because I really like the old versions of that generation of FIFA on the 360 and PS3. So I'm happy to play a game like that. I mean, I got FIFA 20 on PC because it comes with my EA subscription thing, so I didn't actually ever go out and spend 50 quid on it. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's worth it for £10 or £13, I think it was. So I went ahead and got it. And it's just nice to have a copy of FIFA locally on my Switch. That's probably the way you should really approach buying those versions of the game, because you're only getting an update, really. Wait until it goes in a sale near the end of the sort of run of that game, and you pick it up for 13 quid, and keep that for the year until the same thing happens with the following year's version. And that's probably what I'll do. And that way, you're not spending more than 10, 15 quid on it, which is about what it's worth. I think it's kind of, you're paying the kind of DLC price, really, which is probably what it should have been in the first place.
Exactly. And, potentially, I mean, that's what they should really do for, if they know you've got FIFA 18 and then FIFA 19 comes out, something should pop up. Oh, I'll update this to, FIFA 19, all the new kits, all the new players. And then, oh yeah, okay, well, 15 quid is it? Okay, great. Get so much. If someone gets a lot of enjoyment out of the game, I'm sure would do that. But
it's funny because a lot of other developers, they really try and get the console, the sort of the PS4 and Xbox One versions of the game running on the Switch. They just dial down the texture quality and the resolution, like Doom and Wolfenstein and Witcher 3 and things like that. So I'm pretty sure it's possible to get the Frostbite engine, which is what the PS4 and Xbox One use, version of FIFA running. But like you say, they would still have to get developers to work on that, and they just can't be bothered and don't want to spend the money.
I just think that the demographic of people who use the Switch and they want Mario games. And actually, I want to moan about something else about the Switch. Is I was talking to my girlfriend. I was, oh god, the Vita, the games are never on sale, and then on the Switch it is the opposite. There seems to be. I clicked on there. There's over 520 games on sale. And you're just scrolling down, and it's just rows and rows and rows of garbage. Absolutely,
mobile games. Yeah,
absolutely mobile game garbage. You don't know what any of it is. You've got absolutely no clue, and you click on it.
The store is laggy as hell as well when you're using it on an actual Switch. It's so slow, and it takes ages to load stuff. It's not a great experience.
No, it never used to be like that. But I think because they got so much stuff on there now, and it's great. There's loads of games on the Switch, brilliant. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of quality control over these games. And our friend of the show, Richard Reviewsec,
we have some.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever listened, but we call friend of the show. He did a video about there was some video game that came out was all about masturbating in the back of a cab.
Oh yeah,
in
the approval process or something. Yeah,
and you could actually pre-order this game on there, but then somehow they worked out. Oh no, that's not. That's really bad. So let's take that off. But the point is, there are so many other games that are just pure and utter, tripe. And okay, you're right, they should be on there. If people want to put them on there, but then there's got to be some sort of better way of somehow categorizing everything.
There needs to be a filter. Yeah, I mean, like for me, in terms of how do I sort of manage finding things in a sale? I normally make a point of going around, and if there's a game that I know I want, eventually, or whatever, I make a add it to the wish list that you have on the eShop. The same with any sort of online store, Steam as well. I do the same thing. So periodically, when there's a sale, I know I could just go and check my wish list, and that's my nice little list of games I know I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And often one will be like, oh, good, it's got a 10% off or 20% off. So the AAA stuff does get pretty good discounts, like FIFA, for example. 13 quid versus whatever it was, 40 or something, whatever it was when it came out. But and then a good thing about the eShop as well, actually, though we're kind of slagging it off a little bit, a good thing is when you buy things, you get cash back, which is great.
Gold coins or something, don't you?
Yeah, so exactly. So I remember I bought a game like a full price game, I think, from on the eShop, because I think it wasn't a physical copy you could buy. I can't remember what it was, but I got a lot of points for it, and I think maybe 2 or 3 of those sort of games I bought. And then Virtua Racing came out. The Sega Ages Virtua Racing, which is friggin' awesome. So I remember I basically got that for free because all of my points that I built up covered the whole cost of that game. It was only £8 or something. But it was great. I didn't have to pay anything. And I think that's brilliant because obviously Xbox Live doesn't do that. Sony don't do that. Steam don't do it.
I mean, Sega Rally on the Switch is absolutely classic. And there are quite a few good Sega Ages games on there. But what actually to almost agree with your point is that there's so much trash on there that the good stuff from Sega might get hidden, so it might not sell as well, so they might not bring out more games. And one of the games I actually sort of picked up this week is spent in my mind I spent quite a lot of money on it, was Sega Rally for the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, the sort of the remake, or
and this literally only ever came out in Japan, and it is exactly the same as a Saturn version, but it just obviously plays nicer, feels a lot smoother.
Well, I think it's
And
closer to the arcade, isn't it? The original Sega
yeah,
Rally 95 arcade, yeah.
exactly. So it's just such a good game, and I still can't do it, but actually sort of finish it, or get to the end of the third track, or get the extra car, or whatever it is.
It's a hard game. A lot of those Sega arcade games,
Yeah, it's rock hard, but
the time limits are ridiculous. You have to race a perfect race normally to complete them.
Exactly, and that's. I wish there was some sort of maybe turn the level anyway. That goes off the point. But something like Sega Rally on the Switch, if that, I'll buy that tomorrow. Buy it today if it was on there.
Well, we're getting into like an interesting thing with Sega, because there's they do release these sort of little nuggets of games that come out every now and then, like Sega Ages. A lot of them are questionable, I think, because a lot of them we've seen a lot, like Sonic the Hedgehog, like they've released that so many times.
Yeah.
Streets of Rage, and a lot of those are on a compilation, like that you can get, like there's the Mega Drive collection, so you're better off just doing that. But then you do get brilliant ones like Virtua Racing,
I mean, that's the example of actually how they did it right, because they got it, and who was it who remade it?
M2.
M2 Studios.
Yeah.
So they remade it, and the graphics are absolutely sort of pixel perfect. It felt good to play. It's just an absolutely solid game. It was just really, really good.
And they did the same with Outrun as well. M2 did a great job with that. That's a great version of Outrun on the Switch. Yeah, it's another cheap one, about £5 or something, but really good. But it goes back to on like 360 and PS3, they did a really good version of Daytona USA. We'd love to see that get ported over to the Switch. Virtua Fighter 2.
I don't want to show off, but over the lockdown, I got the full 200 achievement points on Daytona.
I've nearly got them, There's one, I've got one last one to get.
Which one can you do?
It's a weird one that's like find the hidden something or other on like the Dinosaur Canyon track. I can't remember what it is exactly.
Yeah, you just got to turn around on the main straight, and then go back up there, and it's just there. I
tried doing it once or twice, and I couldn't figure it out. But
I can't remember.
I'll do it.
But it's easy to find, and so I spent about an hour and just got the rest of the achievements on there, quite easily, and.
But it's a great, a really good, the best port of the game. It's better than the arcade, in fact, isn't it? It's all 720p and all that stuff. It's funny, that if they could port more of that over to the Switch, it would be amazing. But to be honest, a lot of that should be in a compilation as well, I think. Like Sega Arcade Racer compilation. Obviously, the one we'd all really love is Outrun 2. But the trouble is they'd have to make a new build of the game, because they'd have to remove all the Ferrari stuff unless they get a license for it again, which they could do, of course. We've talked about it before. There was Outrun Online Arcade on the 360 and the PS3 that's now vanished. If they brought them in, the Switch is the perfect console for that, isn't it?
100%.
Hopefully they'll be able to do it. But we've had a lot of weird sort of Sega retro stuff being announced.
Yeah, that brings onto the Sega Candy Cab.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on what is it?
Well, I saw a few videos on YouTube, and I think a couple of people showed it, and it had Virtual Fighter on there, and I thought, a little portable Virtual Fighter machine.
It's like an Astro City, isn't it?
Astro City Candy Cab.
Yeah.
I'm just going to type it in because it's got.
So it's like the sort of 90s, I think more late 90s, isn't it? Is what the Astro City, mid to late 90s Astro City arcade cabinet, which housed tons of games. An Astro City was like a generic arcade cabinet that Sega made that was compatible with their hardware. So I think I think like arcade people that ran an arcade could switch out the boards inside.
Yeah.
They could turn a Virtua Fighter into Dead or Alive, or a game that ran on similar sort of hardware. But yeah, they're kind of famous for being like really good arcade cabinets, Sega Astro Cities.
Well, that's it. And right, to give you a bit of an overview, I'm sure everyone already knows about it, but the Astro City Mini comes with 36 arcade games from Sega. And there's 10 released, the names of them released so far is Alien Syndrome, Alien Storm, Golden Axe Revenge of the Death Adder. I was going to say Black Adder there. Columns 2, Dark Edge, Puzzle Action, Tant Art, don't know what that is, Virtua Fighter, Fantasy Zone, and Altered Beast. So of those, I'm quite excited about Virtua Fighter, and then certainly Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder. I think that's the first time that's ever been sort of released, I want to say.
Yeah, it is. In a home release, yeah, Golden Axe Revenge of Death Adder. It's basically Golden Axe 2, but it only came out in the arcade. But it's a really, really awesome game. The only way you could play it was MAME, really. Yeah, it never got re-released in like a on 360 or anything on PS3. It's only ever been arcade. And Virtua Fighter, although there's quite a few versions of Virtua Fighter, isn't there? Going back, obviously the Saturn is probably where people would think of the most, but they weren't. They certainly weren't arcade perfect. Like,
no,
you've only got to put Virtua Fighter on the Saturn next to the arcade, and even like the character models are a lot lower polygon count. Virtua Fighter 2 was actually probably closer on the Saturn to the arcade Virtua Fighter 2 than 1 was. It's still good. It's still a really good game. I mean, I can play the Saturn Virtua Fighter now and really enjoy it. But it's never had a home version that's literally the arcade. So this will be the first time.
I've actually got on the PlayStation 2 Virtua Fighter.
That isn't the same though. It's a weird like anniversary version where they've changed a bunch of things and added stuff. So it's not. I think it doesn't even play like the original. I think it's more like Virtua Fighter 4, just with like a sort of low polygon skin.
Okay,
it's cool. It's very cool, but it's not. It's not Virtua Fighter. It's not like literally the arcade at all.
So I'll say this is going to be £102. That's what the price from yen translated into sterling is, £102, and there's another 26 games. So what games would you like to see on there, Trev?
Well, I really like anything from the Model 1, 2, and 3 eras. Some of those games we actually got on a console, like the Saturn got a bunch, and the Dreamcast got a few later on. But yeah, I mean, all the Virtua Fighters would be great. I don't think we're going to get all of them. We'll probably just get one. Virtua Striker was a really good Model 2 game.
Yes.
And Model 3, Virtua Striker 2. I think we did get a Dreamcast version of that, which is probably better than the arcade, actually, but that's still a great arcade game. Daytona, of course. Sega Rally. I would say if there was a way of having a gun attached to it, Virtua Cop would be amazing. What else have you got? This from the Model 1, Virtua Racing, of course. Although I've got a pretty good home port of that now with the Switch version that came out.
It kind of comes with a little bit of a. It's almost got like an arcade stick look. So I don't know how you could actually play some of the racing games.
It suggests that they probably won't have any, doesn't it? In terms of racing games.
That's right, because the way it's, and someone made the point, it's laid out with like a 6-button sort of setup. So people were saying, will Street Fighter 2 be on there? And I was, Street Fighter 2's been on everything.
Yeah,
you talking about how much you liked it. It could be good. Potentially you might get, I know, Street Fighter Alpha 3 or something might be good to see on there.
Kind of covered with that though, aren't we, Street Fighter? I mean,
I think so.
Even back in the day, like the home ports we got were pretty good, so we weren't like, no one's saying, we really need that definitive Street Fighter 2. Because we've had Street Fighter collections that have come out. The Saturn had really great versions of Alpha that were practically the arcade versions, probably better in some ways. So yeah, that I wouldn't be too bothered about. But yeah, when it comes to like, Sega arcade stuff, things things that we didn't get, like really good versions of. But there's like, other Saturn games would fall under that, like Fighting Vipers, Dynamite Cop. Although we got that on the Dreamcast, but that would be a cool game to have. Die Hard Arcade, the first version of that, the original Dynamite Cop, kind of a 3D Streets of Rage, I would describe it as.
Yeah.
Manx TT. There's. I mean, also the Model 3 got a lot of games that we never got at all a home port of, like Daytona USA 2, which is actually a really good game. What we got as well, like Super GT or Scud Race, as it's called over here. That was a Model 3 game we never got.
People were talking about that racing game that has, I can't remember the name of it. You might have even just said it, but that has Sonic hanging from the mirror in the middle. Oh,
that's Gale Racer.
Yeah.
That never came out. Yeah, no, it came out on the Saturn in Japan.
Well, did it?
Yeah, it never came out over here. It's not a perfect port, although it probably could have done a perfect port, but it was a very early Saturn game. So the draw distance is a lot less than the arcade. The arcade was a super scaler game, but yeah, that they should be able to recreate that on. Again, it depends on what controller we're also limited with the controller, but yeah, it was kind of famous. Like you sort of touched upon it, where it was the first appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog in anything. Like I think it came out like 2 months or something before the actual first Sonic the Hedgehog. So it's kind of weirdly famous for that because Sonic's dangling from the rear view mirror as a little toy.
Yeah.
But that's officially his first appearance ever in a video game. But yeah, it's came out on the Saturn. But yeah, that would be cool. It's such a good game. A lot of those super scalar games will be cool. Like obviously Outrun, would be great to get that. Although, like we've said already, we've kind of got a pretty good version of that anyway these days. I really like the Mega Drive version of Outrun, actually. I think that's quite good. So I think we were served fairly well with that. Outrunners, the sequel that got a kind of a crap Mega Drive version, that would be cool to have. I'm not massively familiar with a lot of those other sort of super scalar games that we never got a wide sort of arcade release here. If they weren't they didn't appear on the Mega Drive, we probably wouldn't be too familiar with them. But things like Alien Storm, I saw that was going to be on it. I really like that game. A lot of people hate it, but I quite like it. I like the sort of. I'm more familiar with the home computer versions, which are actually quite good. Like I was playing the Atari ST version of it. It's actually all right. So there's that. The original Golden Axe. I think probably Streets of Rage is better than Golden Axe, but anyway. But Revenge of Death Adder is a great one. I'm not sure I'll get one though. I think price wise, that's quite hefty.
It is, yeah. But I mean, obviously, I'm not in the business of selling them to you, Trev. But it does come. Obviously, you can plug it into your TV, and then you can buy second controllers for it. So I think it depends on what the rest of the games will be like. But part of me's thinking,
what I would love, and I think what would be great if this was something that Sega could do, if they could do like an arcade 1-up type thing, like a 3/4 size cabinet that had I don't know how you'd cover racing games. Maybe you could switch out the controls, but that would allow you to play all the Model 1, 2, and 3 games. I think I would buy that if it came with like all the Virtual Fighters, Daytona, Sega Rally. I would buy that, like a 3/4 size arcade 1-up style Sega arcade cab. That'd be amazing.
No, that would be good. I mean, I personally, I don't think I could commit to an arcade machine.
Have you thought about those arcade 1-ups? Do they appeal to you in any way?
I've seen them. A lot of people sort of view them on YouTube, but it's always, I always think they look good. And it's one of those things is everyone dreams about, I'll have a great big basement and I'll make it into a bar with a pool table and all these arcade machines, and I'll have a big TV and everything set up underneath it, and it'll be real man cave. In reality, life doesn't work out like that. No. So, exactly.
At best, it'll be stood in some corner of our living room.
Exactly, and I think
playing it. You probably wouldn't, right? You'd play the home version that you can just sit on your ass on in front of the TV.
Exactly. And part of those 3/4 height machines, I don't know. It's like, how do you get comfortable playing it?
Yeah, I mean,
Because
they're almost made for YouTubers, or almost who can have a nice,
yeah,
got their game room, they can have a lovely line of them, and it looks great in their backdrop. We don't have the big basements that that
they're
they
sort of
do.
made as a gift.
Yeah.
Let's. Oh, my boyfriend really likes compute. All these. I'll get him one of these, and he'll absolutely love it, and he probably will. But to me, they're just. For me, I don't know. I'm getting old, but when I don't even like playing computer games at my desk because I'm a bit uncomfortable. Actually, I like to be comfortable on the sofa. I don't want to play VR things. I stand up. I've got to put something on my head. Don't want to do that. What I want to do is sit down in a comfortable chair with a controller, preferably wireless, and play a computer game.
Yeah.
That's what I want to do. And if everything doesn't work around that, then I'm not too interested.
I mean, if I was a millionaire and I bought a big house, I probably would have an arcade room. I'd probably
totally. Yeah, I would too. 100%.
I'd buy a Ridge Racer cab. I'd buy probably Daytona. Get a Time Crisis. Get a Virtua Cop. And I probably would spend time in there, and and play games and all that stuff. But yeah, that's never going to happen.
So, what was the you mentioned? Oh, did you mention actually? You haven't picked up the new EverDrive, have you, for the Mega Drive?
So I've got the Mega. Because obviously there's a new one, isn't there now?
Yeah.
So do you know what is new about it?
I do. Because it's the Pro one, it's for pro gamers.
You actually have one yourself, actually?
No.
Have you thought about getting one?
Do you know what? When you mentioned to me, you were going to think about getting a new one, and then I'll say, I might see how much he wants for his old one. I might have that because I think with the new one, it plays Mega CD games. That's the main difference.
Yeah, go on, sorry.
Yeah, I was to say it plays Mega CD games. So I was thinking, okay, well, I'll get the old one. Not too many Mega CD games I want to play. And I like the idea of, just having an EverDrive already made up with loads of games on there, on the SD card, and, sticking that into my multi-mega. Oh, that'd be a good little setup to have. So I was thinking that for a moment, but then I think he said, oh, no, I'm going to use that other one on my Nomads. And I thought, I wouldn't take that away from a guy. Playing on the bus with his Nomad.
That's the idea. Yeah, if I bought this new one, I'd use my old one on my Nomad. It works great on that. But I'm thinking about it. Obviously there's been the Mega SD, but what I like about the Mega EverDrive, the Mega SD is made by Terra Onion, who have made the Super SD system for the PSN engine, which is great. I've got one of them. But I like the fact that this one is just in a normal sized Mega Drive cartridge.
Yeah.
The Mega SD is in like an oversized Virtua Racing cart, which is massively wrong with that, but it kind of looks a bit weird to me. And also, I think the menu is a lot better. The Mega EverDrive is just a straightforward list of all your folders. I'm not bothered about having thumbnails. I know what game looks like I'm about to play. I'm not bothered about it having a grainy thumbnail in the corner.
Yeah, I saw quite a few comparisons. I think, okay, well, if you load Sonic the Hedgehog on the Mega SD, it takes 0.8 seconds. If you load it on the EverDrive Pro, it takes 1.4 seconds. And I was, okay.
Is that not a big deal, really, is it, for that? Yeah. So, there's obviously, in terms of the loading speed, that's obviously, not really something to worry about. But another good thing is, if you play a Master System game through the Mega EverDrive, you actually can now have save states, whereas before you couldn't.
Okay.
Quit back to the menu either. With the older Mega EverDrive, you can start playing a Master System game, but it'll just from that point on operate like a real Master System game. If you were playing it on a Mega Drive through a power-based converter, you have to obviously get up and hit the reset button to go back to the menu again. But this, you can access the in-game menu in Master System games, save states, which is great because I love playing Master System games. I don't have a Master System set up, so to be able to play those just through the Mega Drive is great. Obviously, I love Mega CD as well. A lot of games on the Mega CD that I really like. So I have a Mega CD set up with my Mega Drive. So that would, I could potentially, use that somewhere else or not use it at all and save on a bit of space.
So am I right in saying if you've got a Mega Drive and then you've got this EverDrive Pro, you don't need the Mega CD, or you do need the Mega CD?
You don't need it connected at all. In fact, it won't work if the Mega CD is connected. Because
hasn't the Mega CD got extra chips in to do all of the sort of mode 7 scaling and stuff? But
basically, the FPGA that's on the Mega EverDrive Pro board emulates all of the internal architecture of the Mega CD, so all the special chips and extra stuff. The Mega CD is another 68,000 processor that runs faster than the Mega Drive one, and it has a couple of extra graphics modes, and a few extra chips and a bit more RAM and all that stuff. So the Mega EverDrive emulates all of that in the cartridge, which is absolutely amazing when you think about it, as does the Mega SD. So all the hardware is in there. But it does mean that there is an issue with the bus, because the Mega CD, it has to emulate the Mega CD bus as well. So a real Mega CD can't be connected because that would clash with that. So you have to literally kind of use it without the Mega CD connected. There's a few other quirks as well. It won't run Mega CD games on a Nomad without a modification or a Genesis 3. They weren't, the Genesis 3 wasn't compatible with the Mega CD anyway. But there is a way to mod a Nomad, I think, or maybe the cartridge, the EverDrive Pro itself, to run Mega CD games on a Genesis 3 and a Nomad. I'm not too bothered about that, really. I just play the kart games on the Nomad. That's fine. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to get it. I mean, they're not cheap. I mean, this one, I don't know what it runs.
How much are you talking for it? £100, aren't they usually? Something like that?
I think this is more than that. I think the Mega EverDrive X7 that I've got was about 180 quid, I think, 170 quid. Well, I paid for it. The Pro is... so I actually can't see that. I don't think he actually sells them on his site directly anymore. So he hasn't got a price on there. Here you go. I'm opening up a link that he's got on his thing. It won't be cheap. I mean, it was $199. So chances are it'll be, maybe 170, 180 in the UK, I guess.
Something like that, yeah.
I don't think any of the UK. I think Retro Towers is the website that gets Crix's EverDrives in, and you might not actually have it yet because they're so new. I think they've only really gone out to YouTubers, I think, to do their reviews. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I don't think he's got it. I mean, that's obviously a top of the range like EverDrive, like the basic EverDrive MD, which just lets you have all the games on an SD card and load them up. There's no in-game menu or save state, but you can play all the games. That's 70 quid. Again, not dirt cheap, but not that much more than what a AAA game would cost these days, and well worth it considering how much gameplay you would get out of that one cartridge. Well, obviously, there's the FX pack or the SD to SNES that used to be called on the SNES. That's 175 quid. That's very expensive, but it needs a lot more complicated hardware to emulate. That can play every single Super Nintendo game now, which is awesome, including the Super FX games and the other oddball games that have the special chips in. But yeah, it's the new Mega EverDrive Pro. Yeah, I'm probably going to get one. I'm going to wait till I got a bit of spare cash to do it.
Yeah,
relegate my old one to my Nomad. But yeah. But you're not thinking about dipping into any of these yourself?
No, oh god, I sound terrible now because I was talking about the Vita and how you can't play all these gold games, are all so expensive, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But then I think I can't quite justify it with the Mega Drive, and I may have wanted one in the past, but to give you an idea, I think I showed you my setup the other day, and I've got 3 machines set up. and the others are all sort of locked away in sort of the cupboard. So, and including my Mega Drive. So I actually got my Mega Drive set up at the moment. So I'm not like, oh, really want to sort of play a certain game or something. It's just not there. But I
guess
don't
that's
know.
the thing. If it's not out and it's not something you play regularly, you're not really going to get the
value,
are you? Whereas I play my Mega Drive quite a lot, so I think I do get the value.
One final thing I want your opinion. I've got my opinion, which I'm sure I'll share, is the Game Gear Mini that they came out in, or they were announced to come out in Japan.
Yeah.
No, actually, there's been no news about them coming out in the West, in Europe, or in America. But basically, it's a little Game Gear, 4 different colours, and then each different colour has basically got 4 different games on. So, I mean, basically, I think I want the one with Sonic on.
They're very cute. They look cool. They're completely impractical to play games on for any period of time. They're absolutely tiny. And this is coming from someone that struggles to play like a Game Boy Advance SP because it's too cramped. And that's bigger than one of these Game Gears. If they were like 20 quid, then I'll be like, yeah, that's probably...
So I think they translate from yen into pounds around sort of £35-40.
Yeah, which I think is a bit much. Only 4 games.
But let me give you this scenario. Okay, there's 4 of them there, and you get the one with your favourite game on, and then you put it onto your key ring, and then you're walking around with a little Game Gear on there, and someone goes, "Oh, a Game Gear! I used to have one of those. Hold on, press a button. Look, I'm playing on my Game Gear." I think that's pretty cool.
But you know what? It's not the fact that these aren't cool on their own. It's more what they could have done that makes them annoying. They could have done like just a smaller form factor Game Gear that look the same as the real Game Gear, like these ones do, but bigger. Probably about the size of a Game Boy Advance, shall we say?
Game Boy Micro.
I'd probably say a Game Boy Advance because that's probably the most comfortable size. So make a Game Gear that size, load it up with all the best Sega games, which has got to be about 40 or 50. Like all the Sonic Game Gear games, Shinobi, all the other like Master of Darkness and all those great One Wonder Boy Dragon's Trap, all the old Axe Battler, Outrun, all those Sega games that had a Game Gear port. Load it up with 40 or 50 games. It'll have a really great screen. I'm not bothered about having an SD card slot or anything. A lot of people probably would, but just have it as a straight up, handheld remake of the Game Gear. Much like the Mega Drive, remake and the SNES Mini and the NES Mini. Really nice screen. So you've now eliminated the main issue with the Game Gear. Rechargeable battery. So again, that's great. And make it for like 70, 80 quid. I would buy that, definitely.
Yeah. I think personally, I agree with you. That would be a better option. I quite like the size of it being so small. I think there's something quite sort of cute about that.
They do look cool.
I think they do. Yeah, they do look cool, and I sort of like the idea of sort of playing one. But then having it's almost like, buy all 4, get all 4 of them in a kit, and get a free magnifier or something.
It's really funny that they're like pandering all of these machines to the Japanese market. Japanese market didn't give a shit about Sega consoles until the Saturn.
That's true.
Buy the Game Gear at all. It was way more popular in Europe and America, so we should be the ones that they should be making this thing for. Like obviously we did get a Mega Drive Mini, but the Mega Drive absolutely got destroyed by the PC Engine and the NES, and then the Super Nintendo. So if anything, we're the ones that should be getting this stuff before them. And I get they're a Japanese company. But yeah, I mean, I had a Game Gear. I loved it. I thought it was better than the Game Boy. Probably still do. But yeah, I mean, I'm also annoyed that Nintendo hasn't brought out a Game Boy, like a remake Game Boy. I mean,
do you know what? I mean, that's if I was sitting in one of their sort of meeting rooms and they go, okay, right, Switch is selling really well, got a new Mario game coming out tomorrow, brilliant, everything's going well. How can we make a bit more money? And it's simple. It's just release a Game Boy Mini.
Yeah, you can make it the size of the Pocket, which is perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Size of the Pocket. You know,
Same.
have a nice sort of colour screen on there.
Yeah.
Put 20 or 30 games on there.
Put Game Boy Color, put original Game Boy.
Nice $49.99. Comes out a month before Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
People go absolutely nuts for it. Especially if it was the Game Boy Pocket size, but it was the original Game Boy. Original white, red buttons, and the grey little screen lens.
100%, yeah. 100%.
With that box art of the Tron hands, Tetris built in, Mario Land. God, there's so many Nintendo games they can pick up on. And that would people would go berserk. I mean, in Europe, that was the first popular Nintendo console, certainly in the UK.
100%, yeah.
So, and they're all scratching their heads people seem to think the N64 is the obvious thing to do next when it isn't at all. Half the people that are nostalgic of the N64 never had one anyway. They just played it when they went around their mates that had one, and then come home and then play PlayStation for the rest of the week. So but the Game Boy sold nearly 100 million units. It's got. The screens must be super cheap for them to outsource them and get a ton of them in. 4x3 screens. I'm sure they could just work that out, and it'd be amazing. I would buy one of them in a heartbeat. That's more appealing to me than a NES Mini or a SNES Mini, a handheld, Game Boy.
100%. I don't. My friend Tim, he always comes in. Well, I used to work. I don't work with him anymore, actually. I've since moved to another job. But he said, "Oh, look what I've got," and he had this little cheap thing that was 15 quid. He bought off eBay, and it was a little mini Game Boy that had all NES games on it, like 30 odd NES games. And he was, oh man, he's loving it. And then it was months later, he came to work and he said, oh yeah, I play Tetris, I play Contra, I play this, I play that. Or what? Yeah, every day I'm on it. And this was some cheap and cheerful thing that was actually had quite a bad screen, was relatively poorly made. But he was just like, oh yeah, this is brilliant. It's brilliant.
Someone like that would go nuts for it. Yeah, I mean, it's also the fact that the Game Boy would have way wider appeal than a NES or a SNES. A NES or a SNES Mini are just there for Nintendo fans and people that grew up with it. A Game Boy is you remember, people's mums played Game Boys. The businessmen on train journeys would play them. Just to play Tetris. They'll get that as soon as they see that box on a shelf, Game Boy Mini, like classic Mini with the Tetris screenshot on the on the Game Boy, the graphic that they had on there. People would just in Tesco, people would go nuts for that. That would sell bigger than the NES and the SNES one combined, I reckon. The appeal would be absolutely it would have that real mass market appeal that I don't think is possible with things like the NES and the SNES, even the Mega Drive. Yeah. It's just video game fans, but this would be anybody that remembers Tetris, basically, and that's way bigger than whatever a NES and the SNES could do. But yeah, I'm just baffled why they don't do it. It seems like such an obvious thing to do.
Yeah,
but yeah, anyway,
exactly. Seems obvious.
Yeah, we should be running this stuff, but we're not.
We should be in charge of Nintendo.
We should be. There's just money there going begging. But anyway,
exactly.
Stu,
right? Where can we find us?
Stu,
that's what you're going to ask, isn't it?
Where can you find us?
Right. Well, we've got a website, Console Shock, but what I'm really trying to push is the Twitter.
Yes.
So if you search Console Shock, and I've got to do more tweets. If you search on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, all different podcast clients, we're on pretty much most of them. Console Shock podcast, you'll find us on there. YouTube as well, Console Shock.
And we've got a Facebook page.
Oh.
We've got a Facebook page as well.
Facebook, yeah, Console Shock. And also, I was going to say something funny about that Mega Drive page you run.
Oh, God.
I don't know why you've made me an admin or whatever on there.
Yeah,
but it keeps on things keep popping up and saying someone's posted this. Does it need approval? And I go, ban him, ban,
dreams
ban.
That post. Here's me unboxing, a PS4 and a funny hat that's got a Nintendo logo on it. Put it on the Mega Drive page, and I'm just like, not approved.
I know who was the guy. He kept on posting like just numbers.
I know.
He was someone who didn't speak English, and he was like, and I was trying to work out how to block him. Then I block him, and then I ban him. He's still doing it. Why can't I stop him?
Or something. Just desperate to get people that like Mega Drive stuff. That constant. Where can I get a Mega? I put a pinned post to tell people the basic things that people always ask. How do I connect to my HD TV? Because you get so many people that are just like, I just got a Mega Drive out of my mum's loft. Yeah. I want to plug it into my 8K Samsung TV, but I ain't got those that plug in the back. I've got video links for that, and people still ask it. I'm like, how much is Sonic 1 boxed? I'm like, go to DX, check eBay sold. It's in the pin post. It's just the same stuff. I'm not saying people off there. I love people joining, but
I know. Yeah,
that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, it is quite. And then also my last moan about your bloody page that you made me an admin on is. I sound like I'm moaning about it.
Regretting it.
and then people message me personally and say, you got a message from Joe Blogs. Hi, I signed up to the Mega Drive page and haven't been accepted yet. And I'm like, all right, okay.
Yeah, I know.
So I go on there. I know they just keep on messaging me, and I'll go down and he's answered the questions, all right. Okay, I'll let him in.
Yeah, you know what? It's something that someone told me where it said who runs another big group that's got like 5,000 people, way bigger than ours, and he's like, so what do you do about approving people? And he was like, well, I actually let it build up. I let it build up for 2 or 3 weeks. Like we get in the space of 2 weeks, we'll get 500 requests. Right, so why do you let it build up? Well, for one, it's a lot of work. Just adminning that, if you let every single approval that comes in, and 2, it kind of discourages people that just want to quickly sell something, disappear, and never contribute anything, or just want to put a stream on that's not relevant to the page, because they'll draw their request, or they'll forget they asked to be requested. So
actually, that's a good idea.
So that's where I learned that. Someone said that was a good way to manage the flow of people coming in. So that's how it works.
But guys, if you want to get onto this page, the Mega Drive and Sega Master System Mega Drive Collectors page on Facebook, request to join, then badger me, and then I'll probably let you in a little bit earlier.
And ask how much your game is worth. Where can I buy it?
And I'll put a stream on. That's what I want to see, streams.
Stream of me unboxing Transformers, and then that'll be that is the perfect...
Has someone done that? Has someone really done that?
Close enough, but anything like that, it's just bait for me to just ban your ass.
Yeah,
there
exactly. Trevor and his ban hammer.
That's what I call it, Anyway, let's get back to our families. And the lockdown and not going out and and being all good and social distancing. But thank you for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one.
No problem. Take it easy, Trev.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.